Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Brad Sugars. Brad is internationally known as one of the most influential entrepreneurs. Brad is a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and the #1 business coach in the world. Over the course of his 30-year career as an entrepreneur, Brad has become the CEO of 9+ companies and is the owner of the multimillion-dollar franchise Action Coach. As a husband and father of 5, Brad is equally as passionate about his family as he is about business. That's why Brad is a strong advocate for building a business that works without you, so you can spend more time doing what really matters to you. Over the years of starting, scaling, and selling many businesses, Brad has earned his fair share of scars. Being an entrepreneur is not an easy road, but if you can learn from those who have gone before you, it becomes a lot easier than going at it alone. That's why Brad has created 90 Days to Revolutionize Your Life. It's 30 minutes a day for 90 days, teaching you his 30 years experience on investing, business, and life. So without further delay, sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's jump right into this conversation with Brad. Welcome, Brad.
Well, it's great to be here, Yannick. Thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome. Now, even though we read our guest's bio, we always like to give the guests an opportunity to share in their own words a little bit about how they got to where they are today. So could you share a little bit about that with us?
You know, I was born and raised in Australia and moved to the United States, married an American girl. So we have 5 kids. So I guess I'm stuck in America now. I'm an Aus-American. Been in every type of business, you name it, I've had it, whether it's service or retail or actually manufacturing. Yeah, I did. I manufactured in the food space, I guess. I've been across the board. I'm an entrepreneur. I buy and build and sell companies. That's what I do. And teaching became a passion. And you mentioned my 90X program where when I hit 50, I thought, you know what I'm going to do? And I built myself a TV studio and I went in and recorded 30 minutes a day every day of business, and then 30 minutes a day every day for life and success principles, and then the same for wealth, and thought, I'm going to give back. And our main company, Action Coach, obviously, we're in 83 countries. I know that Coach Marcia, with you in Jamaica there and across Africa, we have our coaches all across the Caribbean, in fact, and the US, we have about 1,100 offices around the world doing that. So 17 books on the subject of business and wealth. So I guess I'm a prolific at creating books, kids, and businesses.
Amazing. And for those of our listeners that clearly would not have heard our pre-podcast conversation, I met Brad when he came to Jamaica in 2016, and his presentation was amazing. And Coach Marcia, who represents Action Coach in Jamaica, she's also supremely amazing. Like everything Brad talks about, she continuously preaches, be, do, and have, and it's just amazing. So, Brad, could you share with us, I know that your whole life has been surrounded around building businesses, and in your bio, it mentioned that at the end of the day, you want to be working in a business that can work without you. Like, so many people don't understand that concept. Could you explain what that means?
Well, in essence, what we're trying to do is the difference between working for yourself and building a business is 2 very vastly different things. Working for yourself is building a job for yourself. Building a business is building something that is an investment that makes money whether you show up or not. So my definition of a business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. I learned this early in my career that I was the hardest working person in my business. In some cases, I even took home less money than a lot of the staff in my business, and it just didn't seem right to me to work that way. So I had to learn how to turn my business into something that worked so I didn't have to. See, when the business works, the owner doesn't have to. If the business doesn't work, then the owner is generally the hardest working person in the business.
Indeed. And so maybe could you share with us, let's say 3 to 4, I would say, success principles or, just things that will help to make you be more successful as a business owner or an entrepreneur?
I think the biggest, okay, if we're going to go with just three, it's hard when you've written this many books and taught for this long to pick just three. Okay, so first I would go, you don't build your business, your people do. Your job as the owner or the CEO is to build your people. They build your business for you. So as you educate them, coach them, mentor them, train them, I still remember at 20 or 21, I forget how old I was, I went to my dad and I said, you know what, Dad, I just can't get good people. And he said to me, Brad, you get the people you deserve. You're an average manager running an average business. The highest caliber of person that wants to work for you is average. And it's like a big slap in the face. Thanks, Dad. But he was right, If I became a great leader, then great people wanted to work for my company. So that one, I would say that's the first one. Build your people, they build your business. The second, I would say, you've got to be great at sales and marketing to be great at business. Being the rainmaker, bringing in new business is one of the most important aspects. And that's why I think out of my 17 books, and actually my 18th book is all about marketing as well. So it really is about getting the customer in and keeping them for a lifetime. My definition of marketing is profitably buying lifetime customers. So if I spend $1,000 on an ad and I get 10 new customers, well, it cost me $100 to buy each new customer. Mm-hmm. So marketing is about the profitable buying of customers. And when people learn it, every dollar out should bring $2 back in type thing. So we really have to focus on that. Oh, if I could only stick to three, what would I say?
You can give us some more.
We'll go through a lot more as we get through the day or through the session, I'm sure. But I would say the third is, be really clear on where you're going with the business. I like to think of business as something that you finish. You build it so that it eventually runs without you. So by what date will you finish the business? By what date will it run without you and then go to work on the business more than in the business type thing? I think Gerber said that best in his book. So
yeah, indeed. So we have to work on the business, and so many business owners, myself included, work in our business and not necessarily on our business, and it kind of goes up and down. Sometimes you get it to a point where you are working on the business, and then for some reason you get back sucked into the operational activities and you're back in it again. So it's up and down. But as you mentioned, if you really want to generate wealth, it's to have the business run on its own. Now, you mentioned at the beginning, I loved your first point, stating that you need to develop and work on your people. And of course, that's all this podcast is about, navigating the customer experience. And I preach constantly about the fact that internal customers are so important in a business. Many times companies focus on the external, but if you don't get it right internally, it's highly unlikely you're going to be able to master it externally. So could you share with us, I would say maybe, let's move it up to five traits five traits that a leader needs to really grow and develop their people?
So I think we'll break that into two separate segments. First of all, we'll break it into the difference between management and leadership, because in a business you need both management and leadership. Now, management is a system and leadership is an art form. The system of management is designed to do two things. Management should build competency and productivity in the people in your organization. So build better people, like build their competency, build so they can do a good job by training, coaching, mentoring, educating. Make sure your people are competent at their job. If there's a lack of competency, there's a lack of management, or there's bad management going on. Productivity is also management. So it's really about how do you manage people to get a high level of productivity, because if you want to double a business, if you want to double your profits, you either have to double the number of people or double the productivity of the existing people. Productivity is always faster and easier. And then the flip side then, if you look at leadership is also, in my opinion, about two things. But this is where it's about, if management is sort of the short-term, day-to-day, week-to-week, leadership is more the monthly, quarterly, annual, and 3 to 5 year type thing, where in a leadership scenario, I'm looking to create passion and focus. So the leader's job is really building passion amongst the people and building focus. To be focused, they need to know what they're doing, what are their goals, sort of thing. Where are we headed? To be passionate, there has to be more meaning to work than just the paycheck, or more meaning to work than just the profitability of the company.
Indeed. All right, so we spoke about management and leadership, so important. Now, Brad, let's say, for example, you had mentioned that you said your dad said to you, you attract the people that you deserve, right? How do you know, where do you get to that point where you're starting to attract really quality people? Is it because of the energy that you're giving out, your leadership style? I mean, what makes the right people or attracts the right people to come to you?
All of the above, plus recruiting today has to be seen as exactly that, recruiting. It's not hiring anymore. Most people don't think of it this way, but what you want to do is you want to be more like a sporting team. They don't go and place an ad and say, hey, if you're out of work, apply to come work for us. We really want all of the people that are out of work to apply for us. No, a sporting team goes and looks for the best player in that position. Now, most of the best people already have a job. The vast majority of the best people are already working. So how do you get your job advertisement? How do you get the fact that you are recruiting in front of the right people? And that's where marketing has to kick in. How do you actually invest money in marketing for a job? 20, 30 years ago, people were like, oh, I just place the ad and 100 people apply and I pick the best one. Not anymore. The way that we have to look at it these days is we have to go searching for the best of the best people. We have to search for them on LinkedIn. We have to search for them through Google. We have to search for them through Facebook. We have to search for them by going through people who know us. We often find that the best employees are people that already knew us. They already know our company. So they might be on our newsletter, or they might be a friend of someone that already works for us, or they might follow us on social media. So how are you marketing that position to find the best of the best and have them at least see that you are recruiting? That's the vital one.
Brilliant. I've never heard someone, I would say, reposition it the way how you just repositioned it for us. And you are right. If you take that approach that you've just indicated to us, your father is absolutely right. Like on target in terms of attracting the people that you deserve, because you really want to ensure that you're getting the right people, as you mentioned, using the analogy of a sporting team and getting the best player, because then you'll really have a totally impactful and efficient and effective team, which is critical if you really want the business to grow and, as you mentioned at the beginning, function without you. I love that. All right, Brad. Now, we spoke a little bit about leadership. We spoke a little bit about internal customers. Could you share with us a little bit about marketing? I get a lot of questions sometimes, should we spend a lot of money on marketing and advertising of our business? Shouldn't it be a case where our customers, especially if we're a brand that's already known, we're like a household name? What's your views on marketing? Is it something that still needs to be occurring to keep present in the customer's mind? And if so, based on the fact that marketing has changed so much, I would say in the last 10, 20 years, as you've mentioned, which platforms do you focus your marketing on?
So, that is a lot of questions in one. All right, let's see what we can get to. Okay, first of all, marketing should be something that never stops. Marketing is the lifeblood of a business. Marketing has two jobs: getting new business and keeping business. So you got to get them in and you got to keep them in. What's the use of building a database of existing customers? And that even assumes that businesses are. You must collect the names, emails, phone numbers, etc. of every single prospect, every single customer in your business. That is the most valuable asset a business has. Its database of existing customers, its database of prospective customers. Now, what you need to understand, if I go back to what I said earlier about marketing, is it's the job of marketing is to buy customers, to buy new business. To buy new customers is a consistent thing. So we're getting them in and we're keeping them in. We're looking at lifetime value of a customer, meaning how much are they worth to us over years of buying from us. And that's where most businesses don't invest the time and energy, because they don't even think about that. When I was in the dog food business, our average customer stayed with us for 3 years, which meant they spent over $3,000 with us, and we made over $800 in profit from them. You think about that. If you just thought of your customer as a one-off sale, you don't actually make a lot of money from that person. You don't think of it that way. But if you keep them for their lifetime, you'll make a fortune out of that customer. Now, in order for marketing to really work in this day and age, I think the biggest thing we have to understand is that historically marketing was almost like asking to get married on a first date. We ran an ad and we asked you to buy straight from the advertisement. In this day and age, it seems stupid to go up to, like, Yannick, if you and I met in a bar and I walked up and said, you look like a very smart, attentive, wonderful woman. I think you'd be a great mother. Why don't we get married? That is the dumbest thing you could ever think of, but that's what most marketing is. You've got to actually ask people for, why don't we have a coffee first? Why don't we get to know each other type thing? And so what we call that is you've got to ask prospects to raise their hand. You've got to say, hey, if you're interested in this, then raise your hand. And I'll give you a simple example of that. So we have at Action Coach, one of the things we do is a lot of sales training. So we have a sales training program for companies. So I just did a webinar yesterday on sales training for companies with 20 or more salespeople. So the whole thing was, how do you manage your salespeople? How do you get great results from your salespeople? So 84 people showed up to a webinar saying, I have 20 or more salespeople. I'd like to learn how to manage my salespeople. By the end of that webinar, out of the 84, 60 of them said I would be interested in finding out about the sales training program. So not only do I then do the webinar and get 60 people that are interested, but now, today, on all of my social media, we'll run a post that says, just finished my webinar on how you manage a great sales team, how you get your sales team to perform. If you're interested in the recording of the webinar, please type the word webinar below. So I'll probably over the next month or two get another 200, 300, 400, 1,000 people that'll type the word webinar, and then you'll have another 1,000 people that are interested in our sales training. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
So my goal is to start conversations. See, it's people, I teach conversion rate because that's important. Out of every 10 people that call, how many did you convert? But marketing really needs to look at conversation rate. What is the rate of conversation? So I don't care how many likes, how many comments you get. What I care about on your social media, on your emails, on everything you do is how many conversations were started by that post.
Indeed. That makes a great amount of sense. And I guess it doesn't matter the platform, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok, as long as the conversation is happening and it's being generated and there's some buzz and word of mouth around it and there's interest, yeah?
100%.
All right. Amazing. Okay, thank you for sharing, Brad. Now, Brad, could you share with us what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
I was going to say my phone or Zoom. I'm a believer in better levels of communication. I'm a believer in high quality conversations more over low quality conversations. People like email, they like their texting. I personally think that a phone call or a Zoom call, obviously the highest form of communication is face-to-face, but I would rather have a phone call than a text message or an email. I would rather do that. And I know that my kids, having 5 kids, I always end up in this debate. My kids text me and I'm like, stop texting me. I don't answer your texts. You call me. I'm your dad. But if I want a great relationship with a customer, it's not going to happen via email. It's not going to happen via texting. It's going to happen by communication at a high level, which is face-to-face or at least voice-to-voice.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. So you mentioned that you are on your 18th book, but outside of the books that you've written, I'm sure you have read thousands of books. So could you maybe pick one or two that have had a great impact on you over your lifetime? It could be a book you read recently or even one that you read a very long time ago.
I could list off the last 7 I've just finished reading. Would you like that?
Sure. No problem.
Okay, the last 7 that I just finished reading, Marcus Sheridan, They Ask, You Answer. Amazing marketing book. Marcus is phenomenal around it. They Ask, You Answer. Um, Subscribed is a phenomenal book. I love his name is Tienzo, Tientzuo. Phenomenal book about marketing and the future of it. And then Oversubscribed. So there's 2 books there, both on the words on subscription. So you can imagine what I'm learning about. Daniel wrote a great book on that one. Blitzscaling, another phenomenal one by Reid Hoffman. I really enjoyed that. The Membership Economy by Robbie Baxter. She's phenomenal. I just love the work she does. The Business of Belonging, David Spinks, really cool book, really, really cool. And Brand Building Communities, or Building Brand Communities, sorry, is the way it's written. That one there, and Charles Vogel with Carrie Jones. So yeah, that's the last 7 books I read. Out of those, I would probably say Marcus's book, They Ask, You Answer, would be the top of the 7 that I just read.
All right.
But I read a book a week, so I race through a lot of books. So
that's good. That's amazing. So we will have those books and the links to those books in the show notes of this episode for all of our listeners that would love to tap into those awesome resources. Now, you travel, I imagine, quite a bit, Brad,
Yes.
and you interface with many different organizations across different industries, across different cultures. What has been your experience, I would say, let's narrow it down to the last 1 to 2 years, of customer experience? And I know it's a very general and a wide question, but we just want to get an idea of how your experiences has been across different industries, like traveling to a hotel or airline or restaurant, or even just local stores that you may visit in your community where you live.
I think what's happened is, obviously COVID changed a lot of the way we perceive the world. It virtualized the world in a way that we would never have thought possible. That to me has been a phenomenal thing, the level of virtual nature of the world. I think that we have seen a lot of the customer service experience move to more virtualized, and that doesn't make it more positive, by the way. That just means it's more virtualized. The average consumer, I think, has a little more patience at this point. Not a lot more, but a little more patience at this point. I guess, I live in Las Vegas, so I'm in the epicenter of sort of customer service mentality, because it's a
tourist
city based around tourism, and you're in Jamaica, you're in a country where tourism is very high on the agenda, sort of thing. And so in these markets, we must be customer related. And I'll give you an example of how Vegas is different. People come here to watch a sporting event. They'll come to a football game or a hockey game or whatever it might be. And normally they're used to going to other cities where the local fans, hate on the new fans coming to town type thing. Well, in Vegas, we love it when other people come to town. We're like, oh, you're visiting our city? Thanks for doing that. We appreciate you paying our taxes. Thanks very much. We are a hospitality-based city, so I think the customer service experience here in Vegas. Now, that being said, where I see the customer service experience moving to is a lot of the removal of humans. If you want to scale a business, you need to remove humans from a lot of the things. Now, that's because in 2 ways. You need to remove humans where they didn't add value. So, for instance, all Uber really did was remove humans from the hiring a taxi. Do you remember the days when to get a taxi, you actually had to call a number? That person then gave the address to the dispatcher. The dispatcher then called all the taxis and said, who's in this area? And it took 3 people to get a taxi to your house. So they just removed the humans. There's a lot of areas where having a human actually detracts from the experience. It doesn't add to the experience, if that makes sense. And so we're seeing a lot of the customer service experience removing humans where they don't add value.
That does make sense. And I'm so happy that, when you started talking about removing humans, I was actually going to ask if you actually think there's no use for humans in customer interactions anymore. But I'm glad you gave the example of Uber, and you specifically stated if the human experience or the human being there is not adding value, because I do believe that people genuinely still want human to human interaction, but it depends on what service or what value, as you had mentioned, that human is providing. So if you think about it, technology should be there to assist us in delivering the service. But I don't think as a society, even globally, we're ever going to get to the point where humans are going to be completely eliminated from all interactions.
No, people need people. We saw that through COVID. People at the end of COVID thought, I'll never want to go back to an office. I want to stay working from home. And then the immediately when we could go back to an office, people were like, oh, thank God I could get out of my house. It's like, oh, I love my spouse, but not that much. 2 years locked up together was enough. I remember during the middle of COVID, we came down and actually spent 2 weeks in Jamaica, Discovery Bay, and sat on the beach there. And we rented a big house and just sat on the beach and had a great time. And some of my friends, I was like, well, if you want to come and visit us, you can, but if you feel uncomfortable, that's okay. And everyone's like, we're coming to visit. It's like humans need human interaction. But it's interesting to see, though, people going back to the workforce now, the number of them who have requested cubicles is raised dramatically, because whilst they're happy to go back and be with people, they do want a more privacy, because they liked the privacy of working from home too. So that's been an interesting change.
Okay. All right. Amazing. Now, Brad, could you share with us what's one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
I'll give you two things, actually. One, our charity. So I have the Action Coach Foundation. We take a lot of young people and through our YES program, Young Entrepreneur Smart Start. So we actually teach 12 to 22-year-olds how to not leave school and get a job, but how to leave school and give people a job. So rather than being an employee, being an employer. See, the world doesn't need more employees. It needs more entrepreneurs who give people jobs. And so we're taking a lot of young people and helping them through that process. So that's super exciting for me. I think from a business side, probably, because I buy into companies all the time. I'm very excited. Our commercial cleaning business, and people are like, you're excited about a cleaning business? Yes, I love our cleaning business. We're opening, it was when I originally purchased a share, it's based in Australia, and now we're opening in the US and the UK. And so I love watching my companies go global. I love my businesses that geography shouldn't limit your business, especially now, especially after we've gone through this whole phase of, people can do business virtually. Well, they can buy from anywhere in the world right now. And so watching that business expand into a global phenomenon is going to be a lot of fun for me.
Amazing. Now, you mentioned that you have a program for young people between the ages of 12 and 22. If we do have listeners that are interested in that program, how can they connect and maybe, sign up or be part of that process?
actioncoachfoundation.org. Really hard. Just Google it, Action Coach Foundation.
All right. Awesome. So in addition to that, let's say our listeners tapped into this episode and they are super intrigued by you, by your companies, by all that you do, and they would love to connect with you further. Where can they find you online?
Google. Just type in Brad Sugars. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. You'll find me on every format of social media. You can find me at bradsugars.com or actioncoach.com. I'm really hard to find.
Amazing. And you mean you're really easy to find?
Could you imagine being a marketer and not having someone being able to find you on every single platform there is? Or jump on Amazon. Amazon has all 17 of my books available. So Audible has my books on Audible. So yeah, you can find me pretty much everywhere.
Amazing. Are you on TikTok?
I am on TikTok, but I don't dance.
Okay. So
that's what my team asked me to do that, and I told them the story if you think about marketing and being true to your brand, because it's really important to be true to your brand. I had an advisor who was taking us through Pinterest, and she said, you need to appeal to a more female audience because that's who's on Pinterest. And she kept telling me how I needed to wear certain things and do that. I said, that's not who I am. That's not the way I want to be, and I'm not going to do that. So I told my team the story of Adele. Adele was in a marketing meeting, and there was a young person came in and said, well, we need to write a song that's going to go viral on TikTok that people can do a dance to. Adele left the meeting and said, if that young person is at another meeting ever, I will fire this company as my representation. Being true to your brand is important. So yes, I use TikTok, but I don't do things that are not me.
Amazing. All right. Okay, so just want to let our listeners know that we will have the different links to Brad's different social profiles. So if you want to tap into whichever profile you hang out on the most to connect with Brad, that will be there for your getting into. All right. Now, Brad, before we wrap our interviews up, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? It kind of helps to get you back on track if for any reason you got derailed.
Yeah, I'll give you two of them, both from the same gentleman. His name was Jim Rohn, E. James Rohn. Rohn is spelled R-O-H-N. Mr. Rohn said to me, I was 16 years of age sitting in the Brisbane City Town Hall listening to him speak, me and about 1,500 other people. And he said two things that I wrote down that I believe changed the course of my life. The first thing he said was, never wish your life were easier, wish that you were better. Never wish your life were easier, wish that you were better. And it struck me because as a 16-year-old, you're sort of sitting there going, oh, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that, and it's all about what you want. And, Mr. Rohn made me recognize the fact that my goal is not to want things, my goal is to get better. Mm-hmm. And he backed it up with a second statement that was, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I remember running down to him at the end of the event and asking him to sign my notes, which unfortunately I lost in a move one time, which was a bugger because I had him sign them. He signed my notes and I said, Mr. Rohn, what's one thing I can do as a 16-year-old boy to make certain I'm successful in life? He said, son, it's really simple. Read a book a week for the rest of your life. Amazing. Not a month, not every 2 weeks. Read a book a week for the rest of your life. Today, Audible reads them to me, so I'm very lucky.
Amazing. All right. Well, Brad, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. We interview many guests over the last, I would say, 6 years that we've been running this podcast. And of course, all of my interviews are amazing, but some really excite me, reignite me, let me feel so energized and engaged. And I must say you brought that to me today. And I hope and I know that all the listeners that will tap into this episode when it's released will be able to get that great value that you shared with us. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
You have been wonderful to chat with. I really appreciate being here with you, and I can't wait to hopefully get some people go, yeah, I can use that. So thank you.
All right, just want to remind our listeners, please feel free to follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. And if you'd like to engage with us at a higher level, please feel free to join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.